Okay. I did not have a whole heck of a lot of time to edit one of the new other sections here, so I took the approach of let's try to eliminate all the yellow marks on section, as many as I can here in section 4, so you can sort of get that off to the side here. I think we're pretty close after what we talked about last month and a few things. So I'm just going to go through them here. I put in the numbers on page 1 under section 402. I put in the numbers there and adjusted the language to make it consistent between the different A, B's, and C. I added D since we covered sketch plans, requirements for sketch plans, and we did have that on there. So I added that in there. That's optional for everything. You don't want to make those required, because if you require them, then you have to approve them. They become almost like a preliminary plan.
Hold on a second. As far as we have like 5 lots for preliminary and then 4 for the final. Do you want to?
It says 5. It says 5 or
5 or more, and then
5 or more, and then
it says 4.
Oh, you got a 4.
4.
You want to keep that?
But is 5 go to preliminary, or does 4 go to preliminary?
I was going to say we're making that consistent, so it's both the same.
But if you say 5 or more and 5 or fewer, which one does 5 get?
Oh, well, the one is 4 or fewer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the other thing to clarify is whenever everybody understands, I mean, you have a piece of ground, you take 4 lots off of, the remaining piece counts as a lot, so that's 5.
You have 5.
So you get 4 new building lots.
So do you want 4 new or 5 new? That's that, it's a matter of one word in there makes a huge difference.
Right. 4 sounds, 4 new lots off of plus the remainder. Or if you say 4, then you're talking 3 new lots.
Well,
Right.
If as it's written now, 5 or more residential lots would include the parent tract.
Yeah.
Right.
If I make that 5 or more new, then it's 5 plus the parent tract.
We don't see very many of these.
No, we don't.
No.
That can happen. Somebody can buy a piece of property and get a perk test on it and chop 4 lots out, and
Then it would be 5.
then it's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with 5. With the 5 and
5 total, you mean?
5 total.
That's fine.
Yeah. 5 or more, and then it goes to B if it's less.
Yeah. If the total lots is 5 or higher, it's A. If it's 4 or less, it's B.
Okay.
That's
I get it.
It sounds okay to me. We get so few of these.
Right.
I'm sure the first one we got will be a problem, but
The first time we come around,
To get more than that in terms of on-lot systems, you have to be in an area of the county that perks
yeah.
well.
Wait, we're not.
Yeah.
Well, there's not very many areas of the county.
chance of that
Yeah.
happening.
We have a joke in the office that we like to think that it's all the great planning we did that keeps growth kind of contained in the county, but really it's just an accident in geology. Because all this hard rock we have does a lot of our job for us.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, then again, 20,000 or more goes to preliminary and final. That 20,000 or more that requires new infrastructure improvements, or basically anything that requires new infrastructure improvements has to do a preliminary plan.
Yeah.
So that's what those two segments there are designed to keep. If it's over 20,000, that's just the way we had it. Now, the next one, and one of the things here, I made this all. We're mixing lot coverage and building coverage in there, so I made it all lot coverage. So it's irrespective of building size. The between 5 and 20,000 does not involve any infrastructure. Goes to final. If it's less than 5,000 and doesn't involve infrastructure, then it's it's just a stormwater management plan. I think that 5,000 is the threshold for the stormwater plan.
Mm-hmm.
Good, got that right.
Back, maybe I'm dense, but, but back at that 20,000 on the preliminary, your wording says, any plan proposing less than 20,000 square foot or more than lot coverage or public improvement. Shouldn't that be saying any plan proposing more than 20,000? Am I not reading that right?
Where are you? You're on the third bullet point.
I'm on
He's
back
over
on A.
He's on A.
Yeah, let me see.
Any plan proposing 20,000 square feet or more, so it should, less than should be taken out of there.
Yeah, because
Oh, yes.
it'd be, I'm reading this as a, if I was going to prepare a plan, I'd look at that.
Well, it contradicts itself in the same
I'd be
sentence.
confused.
Yeah,
Back
you-
A and B are backing into each other.
Yeah, that's
So
that.
get word less out?
Yeah, that's
Take less than out.
Less
right?
than out, any plan proposing 20,000 square feet or more.
Or more.
Or more?
Yeah, it's a less than.
Yep.
Thrown in.
Just want to make
Do
things,
you want to leave
good
it
catch.
coverage, or do you want to make it impervious coverage?
just need,
well,
you have to be really clear. I mean,
Well,
no, yeah, wait.
Worse than not really clear. It was contradictory.
yeah,
Before we go
So
forward,
less than's coming out, right?
less than.
so
Go ahead.
Sorry, Andy.
yeah, so what we need to the point of trying these two sections working together here, and we have to get the language right, is to cover basically any. The idea is that any plan that's proposing an extension of new public infrastructure, whether it's a public road, public sewer and water, etc., has to go to a preliminary plan,
Right.
regardless of the square footage it's proposing.
Okay.
So the question is, how do we write that?
Just
Do we need- do
just
we-
the way you said, any.
Do we need the square footage marker in there?
I-
Period.
Oh,
would-
I see what you're
Because maybe that's what's
Is
tripping it up.
that a confusing factor? I mean, what I'm saying is, just like you spoke, anything that requires an extension of a road, sewer, or water requires a preliminary plan.
Just create that as a sentence, additional sentence.
saying. Would you even need an
Stand
additional?
alone by
Take the
itself.
third bullet
Take
point and
out.
make it that sentence,
Yeah.
right?
So what if we took the say a plan proposing a plan that involves construction?
Yeah,
Eliminate from proposing
yeah. No,
Plan.
I'm with you. I understand what you're saying.
from a plan. Eliminate proposing through coverage. A plan that involves the construction and installation or extension of new public improvements, including but not limited to, etc., has to go to a preliminary plan. Period.
Okay.
End of story. Regardless
Of square footage.
of
Yeah.
how much
No,
they're
I'm with you.
proposing.
Mhm.
Now and then if they
If they have an issue with it, they can.
let's say the next lot up from Floating Springs wants to pay to extend the sewer line one lot. Okay. They can have to go to the preliminary plan. They can always come and ask, well, can we go right to
Right.
final?
Yeah.
You might say yes, type
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
That's
Well, but a preliminary plan wouldn't be much at that point either.
No.
Yeah, so we're not asking a lot.
Right.
Yeah,
So then that makes the next one between 5 and 20 is of coverage goes to final, and less than 5 just goes to stormwater plan and no land development plan. That's where the distinction would come. But
Okay, well, we have stormwater facilities in the first. Any plan that proposes involves blah, 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 and stormwater management facilities regardless of intended ownership of those facilities. So anything with the stormwater management facility, as written, shown here, would require a preliminary plan. I think you want to pull that out,
Right,
right?
pull that out.
Yeah, because I don't think having stormwater management is a trigger for having a preliminary and then a
Okay.
final,
Okay. All right.
if we're doing it that way.
So,
well, what bullet point are you referring to? The second?
The second one.
A
Well,
second,
there's two conditions in that, right? I mean, well, there's multiple, but there's the one you said, and 20,000 square feet.
but that's coming out. The size is coming out.
I thought it was just coming out of the third bullet.
Yeah, the second.
No, it's coming out. It's coming out of.
The second.
It's coming out of the second bullet on number A. The second bullet on number A would read, the first bullet, a plan proposing 5 or more residential
Got it.
lots or dwelling units.
Okay,
Bullet 2, a plan that involves the construction, installation, or
Okay.
extension of new public improvements, including but not limited to streets,
Hmm.
streets and sewer and or water lines.
okay, and then are we taking the 20,000 out of the third bullet point as well?
The third bullet point is getting deleted
Okay,
deleted
all right,
completely.
because it's redundant with the second.
Yes.
Okay,
The whole
all
thing,
right,
Okay,
that
so,
whole thing's coming.
now I got it. Okay, that makes
so we're
sense.
taking out stormwater management facilities.
Here, I'm marking a new one up for
Would
you.
you please? Thank you. Then I don't have to. And, okay, okay.
No, I'm done. There's gonna be another. Make it
He just wanted to
Work,
keep this one
but-
and make the changes.
so.
Okay, got it.
Like I said, this is why I wanted to talk about this
Yeah.
this stuff
Yeah.
one more time, just to make sure we got everything
That-
where we
that's
should be.
Yeah, just to be clear,
Yeah.
because we didn't see, in the second bullet point, the highlighted part comes out. True?
Yes.
True. You follow that?
Yeah,
Okay, all right,
And the new whole entirely highlighted one gets scratched out
Right.
as well.
yeah,
And then stormwater management facilities gets pulled out of the other two.
Okay.
All of them then. Because it's not if it's
because
not
you don't want that to
anything.
trigger.
Right.
Stop.
Right.
True?
Yeah. The only thing
I couldn't
that
hear his head shake on that.
I'm thinking, that means I'm thinking.
Okay, all right.
the only
You were
thing
very quiet.
the extension that what Scott and I had talked about in this was that the threshold for not requiring a land development plan would be the same as the threshold for what would require a stormwater plan. So if they have proposing 5,000 or more, then they would have to stormwater plan, right?
Well, no, there's an exception for 7,500 square feet.
Okay.
If you had a farm and you're like 10 acres, you're allowed to exempt up to 7,500 square feet.
Right.
Is that what our code currently has? Didn't we change that? Or is that what we changed it to?
That's what we changed it to
Changed it,
in the
okay.
stormwater ordinance.
All right. Okay,
So would just add to that one less than 5,000 square foot lot coverage or less than 7,500 square feet on a farm.
well, it wasn't just on a farm, there was an
Yeah,
acreage
There's an
specification.
acreage, a lot acreage
Yeah.
condition.
So it's the size of the property, not the use.
Okay.
Because we figured if the size was big enough, we weren't gonna torture the homeowner. So you just gotta get the language of,
Plan
okay,
proposing between less than 5,000 square feet. So, I mean, there's only one condition there, it's not between two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Andy, I'm coming with you this time.
Okay. That's an editing error. Part.
Okay.
What we got so far.
so we end up with 5 or more residential lots.
Yep.
Preliminary.
Yep.
And any plan that involves construction, installation, or extension of public improvements, basically.
Yep.
So regardless of size.
Right. In which case, if they that they could request a waiver if it's they think
If it's very minor,
yeah.
and it's up to the supervisors to write that. All right. Makes it simple, I think.
I like it. I think it simplifies it a great deal. And the conditions are clear. You have to get the right wording in for that 7,500.
I think the only thing that
Maybe for B, I mean, instead of the impervious coverage again, I think we probably should get rid of all that. Maybe just any plan that proposes stormwater management.
You jumped ahead to B. Are we done with A?
yes.
Okay,
Think so.
thank you. All right. Okay, so then on to B.
Yeah, I mean, with C, I mean, you'd be stormwater exempt from one of the conditions for one of the reasons in the ordinance. So maybe just with B, anything that requires a full stormwater management requires land development then.
Okay, so so we're starting at the fourth bullet point then, that one, under B?
Yeah, that's what I thought that was our sticking point.
Yeah, so let's take out the part that's highlighted there. Forget that for a second.
On the fourth bullet point,
Yeah.
just make sure we're all talking about the same.
A plan that does not involve the construction extension of that. That's the opposite of A. So if it doesn't require any of that, then it goes right to final.
Okay.
Or then you could add, or if it requires a stormwater management plan, you could also add that in there. Maybe it's another bullet point. Anything that requires a stormwater management plan to be submitted. Would that resolve it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Then everything, and the fourth bullet point, everything from the word proposing through what is highlighted gets deleted.
In the fourth bullet point.
And stormwater management facility would get deleted as well, and then a new bullet point would be added.
A plan that proposes improvements
Proposes
that require stormwater management. Does that sound okay?
I'm gonna read it off again.
Yeah, what sixth bullet point under B would be a plan that proposes improvements that require stormwater management. So if it doesn't meet one of the exemption criteria in the stormwater ordinance, we have to have a final land
plan.
development plan.
So and then the first point under C would be a plan that does not
Does not require stormwater management.
and it does not require stormwater management, or meets one of the exemption criteria for stormwater management.
Right. Or a plan that proposes improvements that require stormwater management. It does not require stormwater management. A plan that proposes improvements.
C.
It's C, just
Does not require.
I'm not sure tonight's the right time, but I'd really feel more comfortable to kind of walk through examples of this to make sure we're getting this right.
Well, the biggest thing is we want to cover all possible
Scenarios.
scenarios.
Yeah, I agree. And we want to make sure we have the right outcomes in the right.
Right.
there's somebody in my office, Rob, who I will give this to
Okay.
to run through, because he's if there's a hole, he's the one that usually is going to catch it.
All right.
Okay.
And in addition to if there's a hole, if we're adding requirements that we don't need to be adding, I guess I'd ask the same question. I'm a little less
Keep
concerned.
it as simple as possible.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
I want to, go ahead.
Yeah, I said the end result here is what I think. If it requires public infrastructure new, you want both plans.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it doesn't require that, but requires stormwater management, you want a final plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it doesn't meet any of that, then they just
Yeah.
do the exemption and get a permit.
Yeah.
That's I think what I'm hearing is the basic structure that we wanted to get to. I think the question is now just make sure that we got the language here,
Yeah,
Right.
there. Because this is the first time I've had all the numbers in here and tried to get everything written appropriately, so I think we should be good.
Now's the time to hammer it out.
Yeah.
and see the second bullet point. I get the one acre thing. Does not propose any building coverage or structure. How, I guess I'm struggling with that a little bit. What's a structure here? Is a gazebo a structure?
Well, again,
Go ahead.
understand, go back to the reason why that's a bullet point in B, to cover the plan that you just tabled, situation like the plan you just tabled tonight.
Yeah,
There, which is not proposing any new structures, but is proposing a ton of coverage.
okay, I'm okay on the
That's-
coverage
that's-
part. I'm
that's
on
the
the,
part.
I think
let's say,
we have to go back to our definitions too. I mean, a land development includes several different things, including any improvement of one or two or more lots, residential or non-residential buildings. It also includes a subdivision plan. It includes the allocation of land or space cumulatively or separately. But it does not include the conversion of an existing family dwelling to one or two residential units. It does not include the addition of an accessory building, including a farm building. And it does not include the addition or conversion of buildings or rides within an amusement park.
okay. I'm concerned, let's take C2 for a second. I'm not even sure, Andy, I agree with your point. They're proposing way more than an acre of disturbance.
Yeah.
So we capture them in the acre of disturbance issue.
Right, and that's why that's in there, because an acre of disturbance is going to trigger the.
NPDS.
So so
NPDES.
somebody does
So there-
less, so we go
But
by.
if there's less than
But,
that,
but it also has to have no building coverage or structures. I'm not concerned about the acreage language here.
Right.
I'm concerned more about the building coverage or structure. So somebody wants to put up a gazebo. Is that a structure?
Yes. But they would probably be exempt from stormwater.
That's where I'm going. But are they exempt from land development?
Should be.
Well,
Yeah,
I would
if
think
they're-
that's why
I mean, the
that's,
idea is if they're exempt from NPDES and they're exempt from stormwater, then why require a land development plan?
okay. I think we just did though. That's what I'm saying is if I read, I'm putting up a gazebo, I don't need an NPDS, I don't need stormwater because it's a gazebo
Yeah.
and it's way less than an acre.
Okay, so if you're putting up a 2,000 or 1,000 square foot gazebo, you're proposing a plan that has improvements that does not require stormwater management,
Correct.
therefore you fall under C by condition 1.
Okay. But it is a building structure.
It still is a structure.
Yeah. But I don't need a land development plan.
Correct, because it does not trigger stormwater management.
I don't think that's clear to me in this.
Okay.
Because what you're saying is, if I'm reading C, a land development, no plan is required for less than an acre, and it doesn't propose any building coverage. Well, I just did a building coverage because I said I'm going to do a gazebo.
Well, it's not and, it's or.
Well, I'll take either one. That it's less than an acre. That does not. I'm still doing a structure.
What about, do we need anything after the earth disturbance? A land development that proposes less than 1 acre of earth disturbance? Do we even need anything after that?
I feel like you're triggering a land development that has the potential to trigger a land development with the way that's phrased. And you're not giving me comfort by saying it's going to be excluded under some other area because it isn't.
Well, let's say a plan has 0.9 acres of earth disturbance. We don't want them to have a land development plan, but based on the section in erosion and sediment control, they still have to prepare an E&S plan.
Yeah.
So is,
Do you want to make that trigger related to the NPDS permit then? In both?
Isn't that what you're trying to do with this bullet point, is make the trigger NPDS? Then why don't we make, if that's right, and I'm not sure it's right, tell me if I'm wrong, then why don't we make it NPDS? Because I think this doesn't make it, I think this is broader than that.
well, let's say they have 0.9 acres of disturbance, but they have enough impervious area that triggers stormwater management, but doesn't trigger NPDS.
Okay,
We still want a final land development plan.
okay,
So the NPDS cannot be the trigger
okay.
in
So
that case.
that's why I started my sentence with if, so, okay, so.
That's why we're just
Yeah.
talking it out.
Yeah, so now I'm back though, I'm back to the opposite end of the spectrum, where I'm putting up I'm disturbing 100 square feet, I'm putting up a covered gazebo, make it more complicated, a covered patio, a covered gazebo, I'm covering 100 square feet. If I read this, I don't disturb an acre, I'm so far less than that, but I still have a building.
Okay, we'll just take that second one out completely. So if no stormwater is required, no plans required.
So take that last bullet.
The whole second bullet point out.
Well,
What does that leave us with then?
but all right.
Well, it accomplishes the same thing as just having it in B. Because if it's an acre or more, it goes to a final plan. If it's
Yeah.
under that, doesn't meet it, then make the second one.
Well, if the building is bigger than 10 by 18, it needs a permit.
Okay, but
Building
that's not,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Building
different
permit.
than what we're talking about.
Just because
That's
that's a
what-
building permit doesn't
Yeah.
trigger.
I'm trying to understand the scenarios where we're creating a land development plan requirement we don't want to. And set aside building, whatever permits they need, other permits they need, fine. Those requirements are there.
Right.
Do we really want somebody to have a land development plan for a 10 by 10 covered gazebo? No.
I think I'm fine getting what you're at there. This says disturbance less than 1 acre that does not propose a building. So if you put a building on that disturbance less than an acre, we'd kick you
I
in.
just kicked me in. Yeah, that's my whole point.
Just delete that last bullet point then.
Either delete the last bullet point or delete the second clause of the last bullet point.
Yeah, after disturbance.
Yeah. That's where I am. I think you covered that contingency everywhere else you want to cover it, and you don't need it there.
Just delete that, everything after.
The second half of that sentence?
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. Sorry to drag that out.
No, we gotta be clear.
Yeah,
All right, so how's it gonna read now?
A land development, what should be in their plan, that proposes less than 1 acre of earth disturbance, period.
right.
Okay.
We still have a plan that proposes improvements that does not require stormwater management. Still have that in there too. Right.
Okay.
Under C.
But if we have a land development that's less than an acre but still requires stormwater, that kicks it up to B because it requires stormwater, so they have to have a plan. Okay.
Okay.
But we-
Okay.
I just thought of something. I don't know if it's while we're discussing these things. I'm always thinking of an angle how developers can try and.
Oh, yeah,
step
everyone
through.
always looks for a loophole, absolutely.
How about accumulated disturbance? You know, if you're not allowed, require for, say, less than an acre, but they do that and then they come back within a year and do another.
0.9 and another 0.9. Yeah.
Piecemeal, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
DEP already
Can we
requires that.
stop it from piecemeal?
Yeah, DEP requires that in their NPDS program.
Yeah. I think we're covered there.
Where they're,
We're okay then?
yeah, I think we're okay.
I think we're okay.
Because I could see that, some of these scrupulous.
Well, let's say that happens. Maybe someone comes in and they disturb 0.9, then 2 years later they come in and they want to do what's evident, it's pretty obvious that they're going to do another 0.9.
Yeah.
We say, you can't do it piecemeal. Here's the
You gotta do one
Here's
at
the
one
ord-
time.
here's the
Well, I
ordinance
know,
that was in
I've
effect.
read the piecemeal prohibition, it's been a while,
Yeah.
but it did cover exactly what we're
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
So we could say, no, you can't do this because it's obvious you're
Yeah.
trying to do a second phase of
Yeah.
I've seen municipalities require, for like a simple 4-lot subdivision, require them to do stormwater management for all of them, even though they weren't proposing to build all the houses and need to sell them and build them immediately. They required them to do the stormwater management for
the whole thing.
For the whole
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
up front, which it got drug out several months as the property owner was arguing that
They didn't have to.
they want to do it, but the issue that cropped up was, well, he wanted to do it piecemeal, which is fine, but town's like, well, then you have X amount of without doing stormwater, and then you have X amount of square footage there.
Yeah.
What happens if A and B use all that? What happens to
Right.
lots C and D?
Right.
Are they stuck with it all? No, we're not going to let you do that.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's
Well,
partially
that's actually a little different than piecemeal.
right, but that's partially why they've also narrowed that the NPDS threshold down from an acre and get a little more stricter in how tightly you draw your limits of disturbance there to make sure that you can actually get through the areas that you're disturbing without going into the areas you're not. So that they are trying to crack down
Okay.
on those kind of shenanigans.
I just wanted to make sure or
Yeah.
got that clear.
On page 2, I want to make sure that I have the dates and things and titles here correct. Date. How days in advance of meetings? Is there something, a policy now for something to be on the agenda? Or does that not need to be deleted?
We need that,
Yeah,
We've been burned on
I
that.
think we need to alter this a little bit to account for a new plan, because a new plan comes in, the county has 30 days to review, right?
Right.
So I think initially we have to have more than that so that the county has a chance to get comments in before they're on the agenda.
Right.
But after that, I don't think we need to have it 30 days for a revision before the next meeting. I mean, if we have 2 weeks, 14 days or something like that, I think that's,
Well,
Well, where the problem came in is that the engineer makes a comment, sends it to the guy, and he submits something
yeah.
within a couple
He
days.
makes a change the day before the meeting. He
Right.
comes in-
An hour before the
And
meeting.
you
This
don't
wasn't
have-
days, this was an hour.
and then come back into the meeting expecting us to
Yeah.
approve it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which, no. it
And
happened.
you don't even get a chance to look at it.
Right.
and
So I
the
think-
planning commission didn't get
So I
it.
think
that's
if we
okay.
have that requirement that they have to submit it, 7 days, 10 days, 14 days, whatever we decide, they have to submit it a minimum of that amount of days before the meeting. But it still gives them a chance to make changes from the last meeting.
Right,
Right.
I think 14 sounds.
Because
like
when
a-
they make them changes, you have to see them to make sure that they were correct.
Right.
Right,
This is talking about the initial
well, the initial,
submission about a completeness review and
yeah.
Now,
The county needs, well, on the initial, the county needs 30, or you don't always take 30, but you require 30. And then we can add something.
so, now, just to be clear.
Go ahead.
Go ahead to page 5. I moved the resubmission of plans section from the end of the section up to after this section, so that all the submission part is consistent.
Okay.
The resubmission timeline I can put might be more appropriate in that section.
Okay.
Under
Okay, well, yeah,
404.
404B, a resubmission.
More,
So to make that 14.
yeah, make at least 2 weeks.
Where,
Section 404B.
Yeah.
On there,
okay.
That sentence.
Yeah, I like, I don't know, I'll speak for everybody, I like 14 better than 10.
as long as they.
And we can.
Oh, it says 10 business
Business
days.
days,
Do we make
so
it
2
14
weeks.
calendar days?
Yeah.
Or 10 business days? It's pretty much the same
Yeah,
thing.
it's the same thing.
Scott, you need to know how much time you need next to go through revisions. I mean,
Well, I guess the other question is, do we get it because, and I'm going to speak for the supervisors, the supervisors want the planning commission to see things.
Right.
And Scott sees it, brings it to the planning commission says what we say, and then it goes to the supervisor. And I think that's how you still want to do things, right? Okay? So, and that's appropriate, by the way. And so given that, is 14 enough?
For a resubmission, it doesn't take long.
Yeah, I agree. And look, we're almost always faster. I mean, it's like everything else in life. You're basing it on when you were taken advantage of once.
Right.
And we were badly taken advantage of. And that's why, but 14 seems either
Well,
calendar.
I kind of like 10 business days because
You could get a long
what if it's
holiday
right before
weekend.
Christmas and then I got
Yeah.
Christmas and New Year's and half of that time is
I agree.
Not work days
Let's-
anyway.
To 10 business days.
Then
is
what,
fine.
10 business
business
days,
days?
because that can be at least as many as 14 days on.
Right.
It can be more.
It could be
Yeah,
Yeah,
it can be
well,
more.
two ahead and 2 behind, yeah.
Yeah, plus
You
some
gotta-
holidays.
gotta-
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
just leave it
Leave
there.
it-
Well, there is no way it's better. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so it's 10.
10 business. Yeah, 10 business.
Now, two other questions, back to section 403. 2 questions. We have talks in there about completeness review. We touched on that briefly. Do we want to leave that in, or what happens now? I guess when a plan gets submitted, what happens now? Is there any checks for what's there, or is it just accepted?
Well, I bring the plan and I look it over, see if there's anything missing. And then we do the paperwork and I submit it to the county.
Okay.
Yeah, if somebody brings a plan in, doesn't bring in all the appropriate, like planning module, stormwater reports, all that stuff, if that's missing,
Then it doesn't go.
Just send them home and say, come back with it.
yeah, until they get it done.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
and the clock hasn't stopped. All right.
So the terminology in there references the township code enforcement officer. Is that still appropriate for here? And I know your Gus is doing it.
Mhm.
Is that the appropriate language for Gus's position?
I guess.
Yeah, here it is.
Supervisors,
Okay.
I mean,
I mean, regardless if it's Gus or whomever.
Yeah.
But is
That-
Gus
that's the title
currently,
of-
is that Gus's
yeah.
Yeah.
title? What's your
Yeah.
title?
That's
Okay.
I'm a zoning officer.
Fantastic. All
You're
right,
gonna submit that to me.
right.
Yeah. Like some places, maybe manager or something like that, you might put.
Yeah, that's,
Okay, yeah, that's,
We don't
Is
have-
that going to cover the fact that we may not have Gus as a zoning officer, we may have Sharon Design as a zoning officer someday?
I mean, that's why you reference the position, not the
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
I would say yes.
Yeah,
First, I would
yeah,
say
yeah.
yes.
Because if you're
Township code enforcement
appointing a
officer.
zoning officer, code enforcement officer, you're appointing someone to that position, even if it's an outside consultant.
Yeah. Okay.
So is code enforcement officer and zoning officer are the same thing.
Well, it is here.
It is,
Okay.
yeah, and I think it would be
In
going
this
forward.
case,
I
yeah.
think, I think
So
that's,
just keep that as code enforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to put or other designated individual?
yeah, it's nice to have a little flexibility if
Yeah.
the title changes, circumstance changes. I think that's a good idea.
Now, in the example, this came from, they had a zoning officer, code officer, and the secretary treasurer who did different things. You know, one accepted the plan, the other did the paperwork and sending it to the right places. Is that in, like this here, the copies that go to Scott, for example, does that come from you?
Either myself or the engineer says he's gonna get it to Scott.
All right.
Yeah, so we don't use the
Okay.
secretary treasurer for that role.
So I'll use the same thing. The township code enforcement officer or other designated person shall
Yeah.
submit copies
Yes,
to there.
yep.
There. And he goes, aside from me, at the county, it goes to Scott and anybody else.
Well, basically, it's the county and Scott.
What about the SEO? Go to them or no?
Well, I won't accept a subdivision for a property that doesn't perk. So usually they have that first.
Okay.
And you involve, I guess I'd characterize it as you and Scott involve the SEO as required. As opposed, you want it to perk, you, as you said, I'm telling the developer, property owner, whoever, you gotta perk.
Mm-hmm.
So there's condition one.
Right.
So I think that
Okay.
it's still going through.
Okay. So what I'll do there is I'll take the building and zoning officer out and make some sort of reference in there to township engineer and other as necessary. It might be a case where it needs to go to the SEO or it needs to go to, the sewer authority or something like that.
Whoever's the designated person.
Right. The designated person distributes other copies
Right.
as needed there.
Yeah.
Okay. We were answered on 3. They're under what is now 406, the preliminary plan requirements. There were a couple things there. We broke this down to cover sheet requirements, existing condition requirements, proposed condition requirements. There were a couple there where we had language from it. It said proposed, existing, and proposed of the same thing. I just took the proposed out of the one, made sure they were in the right ones, basically. So there's some duplicate language in there, but it's referencing the right thing. On page 11, there's a bunch, and you get farther on, there's a bunch of section blank highlighted. Those are placeholders for once you get other section numbers done. Those just be filled in. There, that's just making sure the outlining is correct.
Okay.
Page 14. This was added last time, and the notes I had said strength. So I added the first sentence there, starting all plans submitted in the context of these permits and or approvals shall be consistent with the version of the plan under review and or approved by the Board of Supervisors. That's getting at the sports complex issue.
Yeah.
The second sentence I just added is, should any permits be issued for a plan that does not match the plan under review or approved by the Board of Supervisors, a revised plan will need to be submitted to the township.
Yes.
Yep.
So, because if they've issued the permit, then then the plan needs to match. That means they need to come back to you. Now, whether you'll have any wiggle room to change anything is a different story, but we'll let that up, that specific condition. So.
Why do you say that?
Well, if it's the plan, they come back with a plan with an approved permit, for example, depending on what it might not be as easy to change as you think. That's all I'm saying. There's case law, the case law that gets referenced out there. Just keep in mind that that's not necessarily going to be a panacea to force them to change things back.
Do we increase the probability of our requirements being met by making every approval contingent on consistency with other approvals? So that
Everything matches.
we're requiring everything to match.
I mean, it's the same principle. You can say that as a condition, and then if they have to come, if they go through their permits and it changes something, they have to come back regardless, whether it's that condition or this requirement.
Well, we got
Well,
that in there.
it's,
Yeah.
we have it in here, but I would want, your point is right, that because of some case law, we may not always win it. I think we would increase our, and this is a question for the lawyers, happy to ask. I think we would increase our probability of winning if when we approved the plan, we approved it contingent upon consistency.
All I'll say is I might leave this highlighted through the final version here, so that when this gets shipped to Todd, it triggers him to look at that, because I would this is something given recent case law that you do want him to make sure of.
With the sports complex, there was 3 versions of the plan that we knew of.
And that's what this is trying to stop.
I know.
I think the language is solid in both directions, but Tom's point is well taken. You've got to make sure that we're doing it in the right way, and that if there's something that the supervisors, for example, need to specifically say when they conditionally approve plans, then that needs to be.
Yeah. And
There, but-
it's just one more standard condition.
Can inconsistency be a reason to not issue a permit?
Or denial of the plan.
Yes.
You
When I
might get
say
caught
that, I
on
mean, I know I'm asking a loaded question.
Yeah.
Everything could be okay, but it doesn't match the other plan that was submitted to either the engineer or the county or whatever. So can you say no, because this one does not match the plan that you submitted?
Well, my position would be, you say no, and if the developer or whoever, homeowner developer, wants to take it up,
Yeah.
take it up.
Well, I'm asking the hypothetical
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get down to the point of the consistency. What if it's something very minor, I mean, and you want
Couldn't that be corrected very
Or,
easily?
to, yeah, it should be, it should be, but I'm just saying,
Yeah,
you don't want to get into a battle over just some small.
pissy, yeah.
Well, then waive it. Waive it, or,
Yeah,
That's
issue a
what they
waiver or
Yeah.
contingent upon correction.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think any
That's
minor
not what that
change,
says.
any minor
It
change in
does
the
say,
plan
it does say that, but the point is, of course,
should have to come through, because the
Yes.
plan's got to be,
and recorded as a
it's going to be
revision.
recorded, yeah.
The revision of the plan.
that's where I am, and I understand you can't win every case,
No,
but we should make our approach to this as bulletproof as possible.
I think the standards that what you have here gets you there.
I like this a lot.
I think what you're talking
absolutely-
about here is the language that
well,
is-
at
your
least I
solicitors-
know up
supervisor
front,
solicitors are comfortable with.
that at least they'll know up front. They come in here with a plan that don't match the other one, don't bother coming.
Right.
At least they'll know that ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's not highlighted, but 408H on page 15 was revised, that the the right to farm note gets put on all plans involving the creation of non-agricultural lots.
So take out G.
Oh, yeah.
We just noted
So
it twice.
scratch.
It's so important, we're gonna note it in G and
Yeah.
H.
So things will be renumbered. I missed
Yeah,
that.
got it.
That's
So you
right.
take G out?
G out and H.
G is H. It's
Yeah,
redundant.
it's the same thing, just
Yeah.
different.
Just move it up.
But basically, every plan that's not listed as a farm is going to have that note on it,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yep.
basically. Good.
So I'm taking H out. Taking G out.
G comes out.
And H goes to G.
On page 20, I have that highlight, not so much for the anything to change, but more as a reminder to, as we get to the end here, to double check whether are there any fee schedules now, or whether we need to create something out at the end there. So, Scott, I think that was one of your suggestions to put in. So,
Yeah, that's a good,
Yeah.
good point.
if you have an example of something that you're thinking of, that might be something to.
Well, I mean, even 20 years after Florence Springs has been approved, I'm still going out there and doing stormwater management inspections for those final homes that are being built.
Yeah.
So I don't think the township should be stuck with those. I think they should be able to recoup those inspection fees.
Well, if you submit a bill to us, we will recoup it for your time
From who?
from the builder.
The new builder.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's something that for your occupancy permit. I mean, maybe all fees
Yeah.
have to be.
That's right.
I think if, maybe a coordination, Gus, Scott, and the lawyer to kind of look at,
There are a number,
new numbers, new approaches to that.
there are number one on that thing. Are you gonna look at 10 working days or 10 business days?
10 business
10
days.
business days.
You have working days.
I'm sorry, which number?
Escrow funds.
G. Oh, number
Escrow
one.
funds
Is
is
that
something.
10 working days or 10 business days? Or 10 business days or?
What page are you on?
I
Same
don't
page.
think of escrow and SALDO.
Oh, okay.
G subset 1, second
Can't
page,
remember.
or second line.
They're like legal
And then the
fees.
other one on 2, are you gonna use 20 business days or are you gonna?
Where are you, Ron?
Right here.
Yeah, number 2,
1
G2?
and 2, you have
yeah,
working
within
days
20
or that
days, it
business
should say
days?
business days, right?
Yeah, yes.
You want that business days?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
And the other
Yes,
one down
everything
there.
we have should be.
Everything's referenced business days.
And then are you changing working to business? I missed the beginning of that.
Yes.
Okay.
And then
Full work.
number
Because
2,
a lot of
if you're
people
gonna
don't
do that
want
one,
to
all
business
days,
days at all.
business days or 50 days?
I'm just going to add business day, make
Okay.
reference to
To
all business
everything.
days,
And
just
I-
to be
It
consistent.
goes back to them other ones you made business days, so everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll make it
Yeah.
all the same.
That's
Keep it
good.
I think that's
I guess this is a question for Gus. But we have an escrow fund ordinance, don't
Oh, don't even start that.
we? No, I mean, we do though, don't we?
Yeah,
Yeah, we do.
Well, that's in a separate standalone ordinance?
I believe so. The only time we ever used it, we got screwed anyway.
Well, you shouldn't have.
Well, what happened was that they made their payments to the escrow account, but the checks were never processed. And then when the amount exceeded what the escrow required, they came up short, and then their check bounced. And it opened up this whole can of worms about,
I don't even know all of that, but what I needed to clarify, is that on a standalone ordinance, or should that be included in the SALDO requirements? I don't know.
I don't know. I would defer to your solicitor's opinion on the best place. I mean, if it goes in here, we'll put it in here. But if it's
Yeah.
best handled separately,
But escrow funds for legal fees and all that kind of stuff is it's standard procedure in a lot of townships. I mean, it's,
I'm a planner, not an accountant.
Say that again.
I'm a planner, not an accountant.
Yeah. I think
But
what Gus described is is not an issue with how the code's written.
Mm-hmm.
It's an issue with how it was handled
Yeah.
in execution. So, but your point's a good one, that we should think about that in this context, but that's a discussion.
I would say that perhaps if things under G there, if that's better, stuff that's better put in a separate standalone escrow ordinance, then that section gets simplified by just referencing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know enough about escrow to advise you appropriately.
That's,
The only thing I know is that the last municipality I dealt with that has discussion got bogged down in personal arguments between the one supervisor and the township secretary over who was spending what time doing what, and what was the time expected reason.
We can save that
for doing
time.
that. So,
but it can be I know in the past that some of these townships run up big bills, legal fees, all kinds of stuff they could, and if the developer puts up the escrow fund ahead of time, you draw down off that. When it runs out, boom, stop, that's it, until you replenish that.
yeah.
Well, and that's, we were doing that on, I don't know what one you're referring to. It sounds like it was before my time, and I
don't remember.
We don't need to go into that. But your point about making sure that we have it appropriately covered, whether it's something coming out of this or other parts of the code.
Well, the problem is when you escrow is very specific. There are time limits and everything in there.
Yeah.
And a secretary takes a check and puts it in an envelope to hold on to it instead of running it through. It screws up the time.
Clearly, but I mean, that's not our issue right now.
The main purpose of the escrow is
Make sure
for the township doesn't have to pay out of their coffers for
Exactly.
a
the
developer.
secretary not doing the checks.
Well, we
Separate.
ended up almost on the hook for 30 grand for the trailer park.
Yeah.
Luckily, the judge,
Ruled in our
bankruptcy
Yeah.
judge ruled, or we'd have been on the hook for 30 grand.
And that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Because as a township resident, I don't want to pay for a developer's,
Screw up.
whatever,
Or a secretary didn't cash checks.
yeah.
So, are you gonna, who's taking this up with Todd?
Well, it'll come up in the next conversation we have when we get to that point. But I've always asked for a specific, what trips that escrow account.
Okay, but we're asking a different question, guys. We're asking where to put the escrow requirements.
Yeah, in here or
In here, in a separate, it's its own separate part of the code.
Well, it can be in here.
I know it can't. I'm asking for the best place for it to be.
Which weren't
We can-
you're asking who's going to contact Todd.
I'm asking who's taking this discussion further, yes.
All right, well, we'll take it to Todd and ask him for advice.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Whether it has to be a separate ordinance or it can be just included in this.
Well, and we have escrow part of the ordinance
Right.
right now. So I just don't know how well it covers this.
I just need to know what I need to put
Agreed.
in here.
And that's what I'm trying to help you with.
That's-
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the escrow portion to find one or the other. Last thing I have highlighted is on page 22. It's 412E. And this is that they have to, with an as-built plan, they have to provide a copy of the recorded O&M plan, stormwater management O&M plan. I think it's something that you were asking for. So, they just have to provide nothing other than making sure that as part of the as-built process, they provide that. They have to do that anyway. And just making sure that once it's done, as part of the as-built, the township gets a copy of it for your records.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about that. Okay, sounds good.
That's all I got for this. I think with this one's pretty well at a point where it's
Very close.
very close.
Yeah.
And we can now move on to the other sections, which should hopefully be less. We've talked about this more extensively, so
Thank you.
that's all I got.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very well done. Appreciate it.
Now, just what I was saying about this escrow fund, not only covers legal fees, but also engineering fees,
Yeah.
sewage, probably sewage, officer
Any
fees.
bills that are outstanding,
Yeah.
basically.
And
But the escrow account is very specific to what it applies to. And it has to,
Right, and it can't be used for anything else.
right, and it has to be maintained to a certain point, and if it runs out, you gotta make another deposit.
Right, and the plan review stops
Exactly.
until that deposit's made. Which, that's a good thing for the township. Developers don't like it, but.
Well,
Too bad.
We were mainly
All
builders, not
activities
developers, yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so that's the last of the any other new business to bring up? Okay, open up the floor for public comments.
I have a compliment for Mr. Strife. Is that the way you pronounce your name?
Yeah.
Your last name? Your directive on the agenda was followed, and I was pleased to see it up by 11:15 on Sunday. So it proves that it can be done. But thank you very much.
You're welcome. Gus got it done. Maybe I helped, but Gus got it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody in the back row? All right. Next meeting is October 28th. I think we're doing. No, that's
No, it's fine. I
not
checked.
till November. Is there any rescheduling in November? Upset the apple cart.
I'm showing the 25th, and Thanksgiving's the 28th, so it is Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, it's
right?
that week.
Yeah.
November.
It's not till,
well, when did it, what,
you have them set, Gus.
yeah, what is
Yeah, it's
it?
the 25th.
Yeah.
We all agree on that,
All
right?
right.
Robert's
November
rules.
Monday,
25th,
like
right?
Thanksgiving week.
It's Monday of Thanksgiving week.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I think, November, I think is also Christmas week.
What is it now, October 25th?
No.
Yeah, Christmas.
December is 20, our meeting's the 23rd.
Yeah, so Monday, Wednesday, Christmas, yeah.
Yeah.
28th. Okay, so, the 23rd,
Of
because I actually
December.
checked that, of December, so it's, which is, I don't see any reason to change it. I mean, I'm sure we might fight a quorum there, but
What do I
think it's okay.
have scheduled?
You said the 23rd.
It's
You
23rd.
have it, not, yeah.
And that works.
Is that
Christmas
December?
week.
Yeah,
November?
yes, I think it works.
I'm not sure.
Well, you might be in Portugal.
So I could be anywhere, guys.
Is there any other discussion from the board?
Done.
If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that.
Motion by Tom, second.
I'll second it.
Second by Jeff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved.